Suppose you have the money to start a trucking company and genuinely want to build your own business. Now, the real question is not whether you should buy a truck. The real question is how you actually make that truck work as a business. Where will your first load come from? Who will you deal with? Should you work directly with customers or through freight brokers? Should you hire a driver or drive the truck yourself? And once the load is delivered, how does the payment actually reach your company? Today, we are going to break down this entire system from the beginning. How you take a truck and turn it into a real, operating trucking business. The first thing you need to understand is that buying a truck is not the same as building a trucking company. A truck is simply the equipment. The actual business begins when that truck is legally and properly set up to transport freight, when you have the right insurance and operating requirements in place, and when you have a system for finding loads and getting paid for delivering them. So if you want to build your own trucking company, the first step is to decide exactly what type of operation you want to run. Are you going to operate one truck? Are you planning to build a small fleet? Will you drive the truck yourself? Or will you hire drivers from the beginning? This decision is important because your entire business structure depends on it. If you operate one truck yourself, your business model is relatively simple. You have the truck, you find freight, you transport the load, you deliver it, and after your operating expenses are paid, the remaining amount becomes your profit. But if you own 2 or more trucks, the business starts working differently. You cannot physically drive every truck yourself. That means you need drivers. Now your job is no longer only to drive a truck. You are managing equipment, drivers, loads, customers, expenses, maintenance, and payments. This is the point where a trucking operation starts becoming a real company. The next step is setting up the business properly. You need a legal business structure. You need the correct commercial, registrations, and operating authority for your transportation business, plus commercial insurance. You also need the necessary documentation for your operation. Exact requirements depend on where your company operates. They also depend on what freight you carry, what vehicle you use, and which routes you operate. That is why you should understand your specific requirements before putting a truck on the road. The truck itself is another major decision. You can buy, finance, or lease one. Buying gives you ownership, but it requires more money upfront. Financing spreads the cost over time. Leasing can reduce the initial cost in some situations, but the agreement and terms need careful understanding. The important point is this: do not choose a truck simply because it looks powerful or expensive. Choose equipment based on the type of freight you plan to transport. For general freight, an enclosed trailer may be suitable. For temperature-sensitive freight, you may need refrigerated equipment. For large machinery, construction materials, or oversized cargo, different equipment may be required. Your equipment determines the types of loads you can accept, and the types of loads you want should help determine the equipment you choose. Once the truck and business setup are ready, the next major question is, where do loads come from? This is where the actual trucking business begins. There are 3 main ways a trucking company can find freight. The first is working directly with customers. For example, a manufacturer, distributor, warehouse, or other business may need products transported. Instead of hiring a different carrier every time, that business may work directly with a trucking company. In this situation, the customer gives you transportation work. Your truck moves the freight, and your company receives payment. Direct customers can be extremely valuable because they can provide repeat business. But getting direct customers requires trust. You need to show that your company is reliable, properly insured, professional, and capable of delivering freight on time. The second way to find loads is through freight brokers. A freight broker connects shippers needing transportation with trucking companies. The shipper has freight that needs to move. The broker helps arrange the transportation. Your trucking company accepts the load, picks up the freight, delivers it, and completes the required paperwork. The broker, or responsible party, then processes payment according to the agreed terms. For a new trucking company, brokers can be an important source of freight, while the company is still building its own direct customer relationships. The third option is using freight marketplaces and load boards. These platforms allow carriers to search for available loads. You can usually look at pickup location, delivery location, freight type, equipment required, and the offered rate. Then you can decide whether a particular load makes sense for your truck. But this is where many new trucking companies make mistakes. They see a high-paying load and immediately accept it. That is not always correct. You need to calculate the entire trip. How far must the truck travel to reach pickup? How many miles will the loaded truck travel? Where will the truck end up after delivery? Can you find another load from that location? And how much fuel will the entire trip consume? Because a truck can earn money carrying a load and still lose money overall. This happens when the truck travels too many empty miles, uses too much fuel, or experiences unexpected repairs. That is why successful trucking companies do not only ask, "How much does this load pay?" It asks, "How much money will actually remain after the entire trip is completed?" Now, let us look at how a single load actually works. A customer or shipper needs freight moved. A broker or customer offers the transportation work. Your company reviews the details. You check the pickup location, delivery location, freight type, equipment requirements, timing, and payment terms. If the load makes financial sense, you accept it. The truck is assigned. The driver receives the instructions. The truck arrives at pickup. The freight is loaded. The shipment is transported. The driver communicates important updates or problems. The freight arrives at delivery. The delivery is completed. Required documents are collected. Then your company sends paperwork for payment. This is the basic trucking cycle. Find freight, accept the right load, deliver it, get paid, and repeat. But the money coming into your company is not the same as your profit. From every load, the company has expenses. Fuel is one of the biggest expenses in trucking. The truck must be maintained. Tires wear out. Oil changes are required. Repairs can happen unexpectedly. You may also have insurance costs, registration expenses, taxes, permits, technology costs, and administrative expenses. If you have drivers, their compensation becomes another major operating expense for the company. This is why a load that pays a large amount can still produce a small profit. The goal is not simply to keep the truck moving. The goal is to keep it profitable. Now let us talk about drivers. If you own one truck and drive it yourself, your operation is simpler. You control the schedule. You choose the loads. You handle the driving. But if you own multiple trucks, your role changes. You become responsible for finding reliable drivers. Drivers need to be qualified, responsible, and capable of handling the equipment and freight properly. A bad driver can create accidents, delays, damaged freight, fines, and serious financial problems for your company. A good driver, however, can help keep the truck moving, customers satisfied, and operations running smoothly. That is why hiring drivers is not simply about finding someone who can drive a truck. You need someone reliable, responsible, professional, and capable of representing your company while operating expensive equipment. You also need systems for communication, scheduling, maintenance, and tracking every truck in your operation. As your company grows, organization becomes just as important as finding good loads and reliable drivers. Without proper organization, even a company with plenty of freight can quickly lose control. The goal is to create a system where every truck, driver, and load is properly managed. Once your basic operation is working, the next challenge is keeping trucks consistently busy with profitable freight. A truck sitting still is not producing revenue, but a truck moving without profit can lose money. Your goal is to keep the truck moving efficiently, reduce empty miles, and choose better opportunities. This requires planning. Before accepting a load, you should understand where the truck is now and where it will go next. The best load is not always the one paying the most money. Sometimes a slightly lower paying load creates a better overall route. For example, a lower paying load may take the truck to an area where another profitable load is waiting. That second load may be more valuable than the first load by itself. This is called planning the entire route. The more efficiently you plan routes, the more productive each truck can become over time. Now let us talk about customers. Direct customers can be extremely valuable for a trucking company. A direct customer may provide regular shipments, predictable work, and a long-term business relationship. But finding direct customers usually requires networking, communication, and proving that your company can deliver consistently. You may contact manufacturers, distributors, warehouses, construction companies, retailers, and other businesses that regularly move products. The goal is to find businesses that have transportation needs and could benefit from a reliable carrier. Over time, one strong customer relationship can sometimes be worth more than dozens of random loads.